Hello.
Uh, yeah. Hello. It's nice to see you here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, nice to see you. Shall we start?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to start in 1 minute. 1 second.
Yeah, okay. Nice to see you.
I will put on my headphone.
All right.
Mhm. We finished yesterday. We finished Genesis 8:13. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. And it happened in the 601st year, in the beginning, on the first of the month, that the water drained off the earth, and Noah removed the roof of the ark and looked, and indeed the face of the ground had dried up. It happened in the 601st year, symbolizes an ending point. In the beginning, on the first of the month, symbolizes a starting point. The water drained off the earth means that false city did not appear at that time. And Noah removed the roof of the ark and looked, symbolizes the light of religious truth once falsity had been removed, truth that they acknowledged and believed. And indeed, the face of the ground had dried up, symbolizes the process of rebirth. The symbolism of it happened in the 601st year as an ending point is established by the symbolism of 600 given at Genesis 7:6. 600 symbolizes a beginning, and specifically in that verse, the beginning of a time of trial, of a time of trial. Its end is designated by the same number after a whole year has passed, so that it happened at the end of a year. That is the reason for adding in the beginning on the first of the month, which symbolizes a starting point. The word designates any whole period, period, how to pronounce period, like E, period,
Period.
period,
Period.
period, period. The whole period by day, week, month, or year, even if that period is a century or a millennium. Millennium. What is millennium? Millennium like 100. Millennium is like 100 years. Millennium.
Millennium.
Millennium is a century or a millennium. An example is the day in Genesis 1, meaning the time it took a person in the earliest church to be reborn on an inner plane A day and a year just stand as symbols for a span of time. Span of time. What is span?
Span.
It's like period. Span is a period too. Interval.
Interval.
Interval and period. Span of time. And since they are symbols for a span of time, they symbolize a state, so that year throughout the word is taken to stand for a time and a state. In Isaiah, for instance, to proclaim a year of good pleasure for Jehovah and a day of vengeance for our God, to comfort all who mourn. This is about the Lord's coming. In the same author, the day of vengeance was in my heart, and the year of my redeemed had come. Here too the day and year stand for a time and state. In Habakkuk, Jehovah, in the middle of the years, bring your work to life. In the middle of the years, please make it known. The years stand for a time and a state. In David, God, you are He, and your years, I think.
Years.
Yeah, years. And your years are not used up. God, you are He, and your years are not used up. What it means used up? It's like phrasal verb.
Used up.
Used up. It's like expand. Used up. And the years are not used up. The years stand for spans of time and for the fact that God is timeless. Likewise, in the present verse, the year of the flood in no way means a year as just but a stretch of time lasting an undetermined number of years and at the same time a state. See previous discussions of years in the symbolism of the beginning of on the first of the month as a starting point is now evident. Additional implications of these words. Implications. I forgot.
Implications.
It's like meaning. Conclusion, meaning. Additional implications of these words are too deep to describe. The important thing is that the time it takes to regenerate is not fixed in such a way that we can say, now I have finished. The states of evil and falsity that each of us has inside and beyond counting, they exist not only as individual states, but also as multi-layered composites and need to be dispelled to the point where they no longer appear, as already noted. In some of our states, we can be described as more perfect, but in countless others, we cannot. In the other life, those who were reborn during bodily life and who live the lives of faith in the Lord and charity toward their neighbor are constantly being perfected. Perfected or perfected? Perfected.
Perfected.
No, perfected. Perfected. Are constantly being perfected. The meaning of the water drained off the earth as the fact that false city did not appear at the time can be seen from earlier statements. Specifically, it means that in the people of this church, false city, was siphoned, maybe siphoned.
Siphoned.
Siphoned. Siphoned.
Siphoned.
It's like pump, siphoned. False city was siphoned away from the contents of their will. The earth here symbolizes human will, which is nothing but corrupt desire, and that is why it says that the water drained off the earth. The ground in us, as I have said, is in our intellectual part, where truth is sown. By no means does ground exist in our volitional part, which in spiritual people is separate from the intellectual part. That is why the statement that the face of the ground had dried up comes later in the verse. With the people of the earliest church, the ground was in their volitional part, and the Lord sowed, maybe sewed, was sowed or sewed?
Sowed.
Sowed, yeah. It's like sow and sowed. And the Lord sowed, it's like plant. The Lord sowed it with the seed of goodness. As a result, they were able to recognize and perceive truth from the viewpoint of goodness, or in other words, to acquire faith from love. If the same thing happened today, it would necessarily destroy us forever because our will is completely perverted. Maybe perverted. Maybe perverted.
Perverted.
Perverted, like distorted. Perverted. Is completely perverted because our will is completely perverted. What happens when seed is sown on the will side? And what when it is sown on the intellectual side can be seen from this. The people of the earliest church received the relations that initiated them into a perception of goodness and truth from the time they were very small. Because the seed was sown on their will side, they perceive innumerable things without further instruction. The Lord gave them the ability to look at the general concept and recognize particular ideas and individual details. This we now have to learn before we can know them, and yet we are hardly able to see even 1 in 1,000. People in a spiritual church recognize only what they learn, and so what they know about, remember, and believe to be true. In fact, if they learn falsity and it becomes stamped on their minds as truth, they believe it. They cannot help perceiving it as true because they are persuaded it is so. Those who have a conscience hear a kind of inner voice, but the voice does no more than tell them a thing is true because it is what they have heard and learned. This standard forms their conscience, as can be seen from people with misguided conscience. Noah removed the roof of the ark and looked symbolizes the light of religious truth. Once falsity had been removed, truth that they acknowledged and believed. This can be seen from the symbolism of removing the roof as taking away whatever blocks the light. Since the ark symbolizes the people of the ancient church who were regenerating, the roof cannot symbolize anything but what blocked them from seeing heaven or the sky, that is, the light. What got in the way was falsity. This is why it says that they looked or saw. In the word seeing, symbolizes understanding and believing. Here it means that they acknowledge the truth and put their faith in it. Knowing the truth, acknowledging it, and believing it are three entirely different things. Knowledge is the first step of rebirth, acknowledgement is the second, and belief is the third. The differences among knowing, acknowledging, and believing can be seen from the fact that the worst people are capable of knowing without acknowledging. Take Jews, for instance, and those who try to destroy the teachings of the church with their specious arguments. Specious?
Specious.
Specious. Specious. Specious.
Specious.
With their specious arguments, specious. The faithless, moreover, are capable of acknowledging as well as knowing, and in some moods of preaching, confirming doctrine, and persuading others of its truth, all with great zeal. But they cannot put faith in it if they are not believers. Those who have faith know, acknowledge, and believe. They have charity and they have conscience. So faith can be no means by attributed to anyone. No one can be said to believe except one who possesses these traits. This then is to be regenerate. Mere knowledge of the elements of faith is a matter of memory and does not involve the rational mind's assent. Assent, what is it? Assent.
Assent.
It's like approval, sanction. Mind's assent. Acknowledgement of the tenets of faith requires some assent on the part of the rational mind, a state of mind produced by certain considerations with a view to certain ends. The possessing, maybe. Possessing.
Possession.
No, possession. The possession of faith, though, is a function of conscience, that is, of the Lord working through conscience. This reality can best be seen in the inhabitants of the other world. Many of those who merely know the truth are in hell. The same goes for those who acknowledge it, since their acknowledgement in earthly life came only in certain moods, as stated. Certain moods like aspects, maybe.
Moods.
Moods. Like states. Moods. Moods, as stated. In the next life, when they realize that the things they preached, taught, and convinced others of are actually true, they are quite amazed. They acknowledge those things only when reminded that they had preached them, but everyone who truly believed is in heaven. Since the subject here is regenerate people in the ancient church, looking or seeing symbolizes acknowledging and believing, this symbolism can be seen in the word in Isaiah, for instance. You have not looked to its maker, and the one who formed it from long ago you have not seen. This is about the city of Zion. Not seeing the one who formed it from long ago is failing to acknowledge him, still less to put faith in him. In the same author, make the heart of these people fat, and to make their ears heavy, and smear over their eyes to prevent them prevent how to pronounce
Prevent.
prevent to prevent them from seeing with their eyes and hearing with their ears and understanding in their heart and turning and being healed. Seeing with the eyes stands for acknowledging and believing in the same author. The people walking in darkness have seen great light. This is about nations that had received the faith. It is sorry, what? It is like the current verse where it says, "He removed the roof and saw," in the same author. On that day, the deaf will hear the words of the book, and out of the darkness and out of the shadows, the eyes of the blind will see. This is about the conversion of the nations to the faith. Seeing stands for embracing the faith in the same author. You who are deaf, listen, and you who are blind, look and see. It's interesting. You who are deaf, listen, yeah? How can you understand it? You who are deaf, listen, and you who are blind, look and see. It's like figurative language. The meaning is similar in Ezekiel. Who have eyes to see and do not see, who have ears to hear and do not hear, because they are a rebellious house. Rebellious, I think.
Rebellious.
Yeah, rebellious. These words mean who are able to understand, acknowledge, and believe, but do not wish to. The representation of the Lord by the bronze serpent in the wilderness provides clear evidence that seeing symbolizes believing, since everyone who looked at it was cured. Moses describes it this way: put the snake on a pole, and it will happen that all who have been bitten and see it will live. Bitten or bitten? Bitten.
Bitten.
Yeah, bitten. It's like bite. Yeah, bite, maybe bite, beat. Yeah, bite, beat, bitten. Bite, beat, bitten. Who have been bitten and see it will live. It happens that if a snake beat, it's not bite. Yeah, because once again, bite, bite with e. Bite, it's beat. A snake bit a man, and he looked at the bronze snake. He lived. From this, everyone can see that looking or seeing symbolizes faith. What could seeing in this passage be if not an act representing faith in the Lord? Another conclusion from this is that on an inner level, Jacob's firstborn Reuben, whose name comes from a word for seeing, symbolizes faith. See earlier remarks concerning the church's firstborns. firstborns. The symbolism of and indeed the face of the ground had dried up as the process of rebirth is established by the meaning of the ground as people in the church dealt with frequently in earlier sections. The face of the ground is said to have dried up when falsity no longer appears. Who is next? Genesis 8:14. Who wants to read? It's the next verse. Because I was reading alone and I'm a little tired. Maybe someone can read.
Okay, I read.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Genesis 8:14. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth dried up. The second month symbolized all the stages that, that precede rebirth. The 27th day symbolized holiness. The earth dried up means that they were reborn. These words are the conclusion to the verses above and the beginning of all that follows. The symbolism of the second month, as well as all the stages and precede rebirth, can be seen from the symbolism of two in the word. Two symbolize the same thing as six, which is fighting and hard work that come before rebirth. So here it means all the stages we go through before becoming regenerate. The longest and shortest intervals in the word are generally split in three or in seven and are called days, weeks, months, years, and ages. 3 and 7 are holy. 2 and 6 being just one less are not holy but relatively profound as shown before. 3 and 7 also mean something Sarah. How to read this?
Sacrosanct.
Sacrosanct. Oh,
It's like holy.
oh,
Sacrosanct.
okay. Something sacrosanct is because of its connection with the last judgment, predicted as coming on the third or or else the 7 days. Every person both collectively and individually has a last judgment when the Lord comes. There was a last judgment when the Lord come into the world. There will be a last judgment when he enters into his glory. There is a last judgment when he comes individually to each person. There is also a last judgment for each person who dies. This last, this last judgment is the third day and the seventh day, which is holy for those who have lived good life, but unholy for those who have lived evil life, evil life,
Li- lives. Lives.
e- evil life.
You say without s. Do you see? It's you say like live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life.
S. Do you see
Yeah,
s?
life,
Live. Lives. Listen. Mhm.
Lives.
lives,
Lives.
Do you see?
life,
She's
life,
lives.
life.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lives.
Lives.
okay. Consequently, a third day and 7 day is predicted for those judge what word worthy of death and for those judged worthy of life, so that the numbers symbolize what is unholy for those with a verdict of death, but what is holy for those with a verdict of life. 2 and 6, the numbers just before 3 and 7, bear a relationship to them and symbolize in general every preceding stage. This is a meaning of the numbers 2 and 6, and the meaning adapts to the subject at hand and to whatever the subject applies to, which the numbers describe. All of this will become clearer from the discussion of the number 27 in the next section. The symbolism of the 27 days as holiness is established by this. The number is the product of three multi, multiplied by itself twice. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27, so that 3 is dominant in the number. This is how the earliest people calculate their number, and they understood them purely as standing for some quality. The fact that three symbolize the same thing as seven can be seen from remarks in the previous section. The the secret reason is that the Lord rose again and on the third day. The Lord's uh, recircu-
Resurrect,
circulation,
resurrection, resurrection.
resurrection, resurrection in itself involves everything that is sacred and entails the resurrect,
Resurrection.
resurrect, resurrections of all people.
Mhm. It's resurrection.
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 Resurrection. It's like
Resurrection.
Sunday, Sunday and restoration, revival.
Resurrection. Okay. Resurrection of all people. That is why the Jewish religion came to use this number in the representative way and why it is holy number in the word. The situation resembles that
Resembles.
Resemble.
resembles that in heaven, where there are no numbers, generalized and reverent idea of Lord's resurrection and of his arrival in the world replaces the numbers 3 and 7 there. The symbolism of 3 and 7 as holiness is established by the following passages in the Word in Moses. Those touching a dead body will be unclean 7 days. They shall atone for themselves in this matter on the third day. And on the 7 days they will be clean. And and if they have not atoned for themselves,
Atone.
atone,
What is this? Atone.
Atone.
It's like bathe. Bathe,
Oh,
redeem,
yeah,
blood.
Italian.
yeah,
Atone.
atone. On the third day, then on the 7 days they will not be clean. Those who by a sword or a dead body or a human bone or a grave will be unclean 7 days. A clean person shall sprinkle water on the unclean person on the third day and on the 7 days, and the clean one will expiate the unclean,
What is, what is this?
Expiate.
expiate,
Expiate. Expiate.
Expiate.
Expiate like this.
ex,
Expiate. Like
yeah,
it's like atone. Synonym of atone. Redeem, bathe, atone, expiate.
yeah,
The unclean on the seventh day.
day, yeah. The unclean shall wash their clothes and rinsed with water and will be clean in the evening. It is quite clear that these things are representative, in other words, that the outward circumstances symbolize something internal. This is true, for instance, of the unclean, uncleanness,
Uncleanness.
uncleanness.
Mhm.
Uncleanliness.
1 second. Uncleanliness.
Uncleanliness.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. It's uncleanliness.
Uncleanliness. Yeah.
Uncleanliness.
Uncleanliness. I mixed with this. Do you see?
Yeah.
Uncleanness.
Yeah.
Uncleanness and unclean
Uncleanliness.
unclean. What's the difference between uncleanness and uncleanliness? Uncleanliness. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's almost the
Unclean,
same.
uncleanness and uncleanliness.
Yeah.
Uncleanliness. Maybe it's more dirty uncleanliness than uncleanness.
Yeah. Uncleanliness ascribed to one who had touched a dead body. A victim of stabbing a human bone or a grave. All these things on an inner level symbolize a person's own uh, prop, prop, propensity.
What is this propensities? Yeah, I didn't. I don't know.
Propensities.
Propensities.
Yeah,
Propensities.
It's like
yeah,
inclination, craving, tendency, like this. Inclination, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, propensity.
Propensities.
Propensities. Person's own propensities.
Yeah, propensities, which are dead and profound. The same is also true of the fact that they were to wash with water and would then be clean in the evening. So the third and 7 days were representative too, symbolizing holiness, since on those days the person would achieve atonement and would therefore be clean. The same applies to those who return from battle against the Midianites, of whom it says, "Come
Your
out."
microphone sounds quiet. Like it looks like it is far from you.
Is it? How about now? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, it's okay. It's very good.
Okay.
Mhm.
Camp outside the camp 7 days. Every one of you who has killed a soul and everyone who has touched a victim of stabbing, you shall atone for yourself on the third days and on the seventh days. Had this been mere ritual, neither the third days nor the seventh would have represented or symbolized holiness and atonement. They would have been something that, like a result without means and a means without a purpose, or to put it another way, like a result separated from a means separated from its purpose, so it would not have been the last bit divine. The coming of the Lord to Mount Sinai clearly indicates that the third days represented and therefore symbolized something holy. There are
These
commandments. Oh,
these are
these are the commandments concerning that event. Jehovah said to Moses, "Go to the people and what and con,
consecrate.
consecrate them today and tomorrow." Uh, telling them to
Telling.
wash, yeah, telling them
Mhm.
to wash their clothes, their clothes and be ready for the third day, because on the third day Jehovah will come down in the eyes of all people onto Mount Sinai. Joshua passage across the Jordan on the third day suggests the same thing. It is described this way: Joshua commanded, "Pass through the middle of the camp and command the people, saying, Get provisions ready for yourself."
Provisions. I think get provisions. Provisions. Yeah,
Provisions.
provisions is like it's like supply, like food provisions,
Provisions.
providing supply. It's about food. Get provisions ready for yourselves, like food to eat. Go on. I don't hear you. Mm. I hear. What's going on? Mm-hmm. No, I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't turn on my mic earlier. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Get provisions. Mm-hmm.
Okay, get provisions ready for yourself because in 3 days you are crossing this Jordan to come in to inherit the land. The crossing of the Jordan represented the entrance of the children of Israel, regenerate people, that is, into the Lord's kingdom. Joshua, who led them in, represented the Lord himself, and it occurs on the third day. Since the third day, like the seventh, was holy, the third year was set up as a year of uh, thief, teachers,
Tithe.
tithes.
Year of tithe. It's
Okay,
about it's about taxes, I think. Yeah. It's like 10th
Tithes.
tithes.
tithe. Tithe. It's
Tithes.
like 10%. 10% of taxes.
Okay,
Hello?
Hello,
tithes.
Sweden. Sorry to interrupt, guys.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the
What
people
what are you
then.
asking? Mm-hmm.
Do you
Ah, okay.
remember me from yesterday?
Ah, yeah, it's good to hear
Yeah,
you. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay, cool,
Okay.
cool.
Uh, and the people then behave in a godly way by doing charitable work and following verses. Tithes represented the remnant in us, which is holy because it is the Lord's alone. Jonah's 3 days and 3 nights in the fish belly, obviously, represented the Lord's burial and resurrection on the third day. The symbolism of three as the kind of sanctity can also be seen in uh, what is that? Pro,
Prophets.
prophet,
Prophets.
yeah, prophets, as in Hosea. Jehovah will bring us to life after 2 days. On the third day, He will reveal us, so that we may live before Him. Here too, the third day plainly stands for the Lord's coming and His resurrection in Zechariah. It will come about in it will come about in all the earth that two parts in it will be cut off, will die, and a third will be left in it, and I will lead the third part through fire, and smelt them as silver is smelt, and test them as gold is tested. The third part of the number three here again stands for holiness. One third involves the same thing as three, as does a third of a third, which comes which comes up in current verse, since three is the third of a third of 27. Yeah, thank you. Arumin, you can
Thank
read.
you. Is there a queue? Is there anybody who wants to read, or can I read? You want me to continue? Swedenborg?
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you can. Mm-hmm.
Is it from the meaning? Okay,
Yeah, the meaning. Mm-hmm.
the meaning of the earth dried up as the fact that they were reborn can be seen from the things said earlier at verses 7 and 13, section. Yeah, about the drying up of the water, the earth, and the face of the ground. Genesis 8, 15, 16. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. God spoke to Noah, say, God spoke. Can you turn the page, please?
Symbolizes.
Okay, God spoke to Noah symbolizes. It's still the same page for me.
Symbolizes the Lord's presence. Do you see it?
It's
Maybe.
loading. Wait a second. It's loading.
Maybe because of your connection, because previous reader was no,
Yeah. Okay, now it
didn't
came.
have
Okay.
it.
Symbolizes the Lord's presence with the people of this church. Going out of the ark symbolizes liberty. You and your wife symbolizes the church. Your sons and your sons, wives with you. Am I reading the same page? No.
No,
Wives
you didn't
with,
read.
with you symbolizes truth and a goodness bound up with truth in those people. The symbolism of God spoke to Noah as the Lord's presence with the people of this church can be seen from the word's inner meaning. The Lord talks to every individual because anything good or true that a person wills or thinks comes from the Lord. We each have at least two evil spirits and two angels with us. The evil spirits stir up our evils, but the angels inspire goodness and truth. Everything good or true that the angels inspire in us is the Lord's. So the Lord is constantly talking to us. He talks very differ. He talks very
Differently.
Did you change it? It's still the same page for me. I don't understand why is it like that.
Who can see?
Can I?
Who can see this page well? Mm, though to one person, then to another. I mean, it's your.
I'm
Do
in
you
the
see? Yeah.
new page. I'm in the new
Mhm.
page.
Yeah. Do you see? Previous reader didn't have
Yeah,
such troubles like you have.
yeah,
It means that it is your
yeah,
Wi-Fi connection,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Differently, though, to one person than the another. With those who allow themselves to be swept up by evil spirits, the Lord speaks like one absent or far away, so that he can barely be said to speak at all. But with those whom he leads, the Lord speaks more directly. The fact that no one can ever think anything good or true except by the Lord's power makes this sufficiently clear. The degree of love we feel for our neighbor.
What is sufficiently? I forgot.
It
What
means
is it?
like enough. It means enough, I guess.
Mm, enough clear, yeah.
Uh,
Let's check it out. Yeah.
Sufficiently.
Like
Adequately.
quiet. hmm
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like enough.
Mhm.
Quiet.
Sufficiently.
Sufficiently.
Sufficient. The degree of love we feel for our neighbor. Next
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
Can you see this end of faith we have?
No, I can't.
Maybe you can reconnect,
Okay. All right.
leave
I'll
this
I'll
channel and
okay. Okay.
come in again. The degree of love we feel for our neighbor. Degree. Degree like level.
Degree.
Degree. Degree of love, like level of love. Okay. He left it all. Okay, the degree of love we feel for our neighbor and of faith we have determines the extent of to which the Lord can be described as present with us. The Lord is present in neighborly love. Neighborly.
Neighborly.
Neighborly. I mixed with newborn. It's neighborly. The Lord is present in neighborly love because He is present in everything good, but He is not as present in so-called faith devoid of love. Devoid.
Devoid.
Devoid of love. Mhm. Faith without love and charity is a detached or disconnected thing. Wherever there is union, there must be a uniting medium, and the only united medium is love and charity. Medium. It's like any middle. Yeah, middle.
Medium.
Medium.
Or tool in this context.
Uh, in context, uniting medium is love. On uniting. What do you say?
I think
On
in this
united.
context it means tool, like a device.
Uh, united medium is love device.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Only tool you
Yeah.
need is love
Okay.
and charity.
Yeah. Medium. Medium. Yeah, it's like material.
Material, yeah, material.
Mm-hmm. Maybe like it's you're correct. It's like a device. It's like
Words have
it's
a lot
like
of
a
meanings,
skill.
multiple
It's
meanings.
any tool,
Yeah,
instrument.
I didn't know that
Me-
this word has this meaning. So good.
mhm. What about now? Can you see well this
Yes, I
page?
can. I can see. Can you change the page,
Mhm.
please? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You okay? I'm gonna continue reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Go on.
Anyone can see this by considering that the Lord shows mercy to everyone, loves everyone, and wants to make everyone happy forever. As a result, those who lack sufficient love to have mercy on others, love them, and want to make them happy cannot unite with the Lord, because they are unlike Him and are anything but His image. To gaze at the Lord through the lens of supposed faith and yet hate others is not only to stand far removed from the Lord. It is also to put a deep, hellish gulf between yourself and the Lord, a gulf you will fall into if you try to approach Him. What is gulf?
Yeah, I think about it too. Golf,
Golf.
like a abyss, like it's like anything. Like in this sense,
Just
hellish
like
golf.
gap
Golf.
between you and the Lord.
Yeah. It's like a abyss, like
Okay,
mhm,
like a
hole.
distance between you and God.
Yeah.
A gulf you
Distance.
will fall into if you try to approach Him. Hatred for other people is that intervening, hellish chasm. Intervening and chasm, what are they?
Mhm. Uh,
Do you know?
chasm.
Is
Chasm. It's like abyss too.
chasm.
Ah,
Gap. Gap.
Gap.
okay.
Gap. And
Chasm.
intervening.
Intervening.
How to pronounce it?
Intervening.
Yeah, in British,
Interfering? Okay.
intervening. Intervening like past, intermediate, and interfering. Interfering. In this
I get
sense,
it.
other people is that interfering, hellish. Hatred for other people is that maybe intervening in this sense. hellish. Once again, it's like intermediate. I think it's not interfering. It's like intermediate, maybe hellish, chasm, like abyss.
Okay. The Lord's presence with us first becomes possible when we love our neighbor. Within love is the Lord, and so far as we have love, the Lord is present. Moreover, so far as the Lord is present, he talks to us. We are unaware that it is not our own thinking, but not a single idea, not a single particle of an idea originates in us. Whatever is evil and false we acquire from hell through evil spirits, and whatever is good and true we acquire from the Lord through angels. This is influx. It endows. Interesting words. Influx and
Endows.
endows. Endows.
Influx
What is?
like influence. Influence like
Uh-huh.
a perception like this.
Uh-huh.
Inflow.
Influx.
Influx. It's not influx. Influx.
Influx.
Influx. Like inflow. It's like how to explain? Maybe in dictionary influx. Let's see in dictionary explanation.
Okay.
Influx. You said influx, yeah?
Yeah.
It's influx. This
Like a school.
influx. The city is preparing for a large influx of
Mm.
This means
tourists.
a lot of things coming in.
This
Yeah.
uh,
Pouring.
income. What did you say? Sorry.
I said it just means like a lot of things coming.
Yeah, influx of
Yeah.
tourists,
A lot
like a
of.
lot of
Yeah.
tourists. Influx.
Yeah.
Out.
Okay.
It's like
Nice.
in pouring,
hmm
Mhm.
like an
But
income.
Like a rich person has an influx of money.
hmm Income, yeah, like it's like you're earning.
Kind of, yeah.
hmm This is influx. It endows us with splendor, like this, yeah. Endows, like any benefit.
Endows.
Endows, like give, provide, invest, investation. Invest.
okay. Interesting. It endows us with life and creates the link between our soul and our body. These things suggest what it means that God spoke to Noah, saying something to a person, as he does in Genesis 1:29. And it's different from speaking to someone. Speaking to Noah here is being present because the current subject is the person reborn who has received the gift of a charitable feeling. The symbolism of going out of ark as liberty can be seen from earlier statements, and from the thread of the story itself,
I think
it's
it's charitable. It's not charitable because it's not about table.
charitable. Oh yeah, my bad. Charitable.
Charitable.
Yeah,
Charitable. Charitable.
charitable. Yeah.
Charitable.
Charity.
Uh-huh.
Merciful.
Charitable. Pattern of connections. The time that Noah spent in the ark, surrounded by flood water, symbolized being in captivity that is being tossed about by evil and falsity, or what amounts to the same thing, by the evil spirits who spark our spiritual battles. From this it follows that leaving the ark symbolizes liberty. The Lord's presence involves liberty. The one is a consequence of the other, the more present.
The one is a consequence.
Of
Consequence
an
like what is following,
result,
yeah?
like a
Result.
result.
hmm
Huh?
Yeah. Impact, result.
Consequence.
Conse- consequence of the other, the more present. The more present the Lord is, the freer we are. In other words, the more we love goodness and truth, the more freely we act. That is the nature of the Lord's influence coming by way of angels. Hell's influence, on the other hand, coming by way of evil spirits, brings with it the forceful effort to dominate. Those spirits connive at nothing else than to put us so completely under their yoke that we become nothing and they. Connive, what is connive?
I think it's connive.
Connive?
What it means?
I'm not sure too, but I think it's connive.
It means
Yeah, you're right. Connive.
ignoring? Okay.
Connive is like condone, indulge, condone. What is it?
Condone.
Condone, like justify. Actually, in this sense, it's like indulge, but maybe we can see in dictionary connive to pretend ignorance of or fail to take action against something one ought to oppose. To be indiligent or in sacred sympathy.
And what is the pronunciation?
Connive.
Connive.
Connive. Connive.
Connive.
But do you see transcription? It's like connive. I hear transcription is like
yeah,
maybe,
it is.
maybe
The phonetic
American
alphabet shows different. Yeah.
connive. I think it's in
Connive.
maybe American and British different pronunciation of this word. Connive
Yeah,
or
okay.
connive. It's
Connive.
okay. Maybe connive is better.
Connive at nothing else than. I'm gonna sneeze.
In this sense, we can say that those spirits, like force force us, like maybe
those
force us
spirits.
with nothing else than to
Those
put us
spirits
so
connive at
completely under the yoke.
nothing
Like
else than
force.
to put us so completely under their yoke that we become nothing and they become everything. When they are everything, then we are one of them and hardly even one of them, but like a nobody in their eyes. So when the Lord delivers us from their control and removes their yoke, a battle begins. And when we have been delivered, reborn, the Lord leads us so gently by means of angels that it is anything but a yoke, anything but domination. Through pleasure and happiness, we are led and loved and esteemed.
Esteemed. We saw this word, yeah.
Esteemed.
Today, yeah, or not?
I wasn't there.
No.
Esteemed.
Esteemed.
Like getting respect.
Yeah.
I guess.
Esteemed. Yeah. It's like distinguished or respected, valued,
Yeah.
honorable,
Sure.
and distinguished too.
Distinguished.
Like self-esteem. Right? Self-esteem, like self-respect.
And loved, we are led and loved and esteemed.
This is what the Lord teaches in Matthew. My yoke is mild and my burden is light. The situation is quite the opposite among evil spirits, who consider us worthless, as I said, and would torture us every second if they could. This I know from a great deal of experience that I will.
Maybe this word is mild. You said mild. Maybe it's mild.
Is it mild?
No, it's mild.
No, mild. Yeah, you're correct.
Mild.
Mild. It's like soft. Mild. So my yoke is mild.
Mild.
Maybe soft. Maybe it's not about soft. Gentle, maybe better. My yoke is gentle, maybe like this, and my burden is light. It's very good. It means it's very good.
I will relate further on. I will relate further on with the Lord's divine mercy. The symbolism of you and your wife as the church can again be seen from the series of ideas, as can the symbolism of your sons and sons' wives with you as truth, and a goodness bound up with truth. In those people, the symbolism of you as people in the church is obvious, and the symbolism of a wife as the church, of sons as truth, and of sons' wives as the goodness bound up with truth, has been shown many times before. So there is no need to tarry over it here. Carry over.
Tarry.
Terry.
Mhm.
It's Terry. It's like wait, delay, maybe.
Mhm.
There is no need to tarry over it here. Like maybe
Okay.
delay, maybe stay. Next verse. Thank you. Next verse is Genesis 8:17. Who wants to read? Who wants to continue? Next verse.
I continue.
Go ahead.
Genesis 8:17. Every wild animal that is with you of all flesh, including the bird and the beast and every creeping thing creeping on the earth, take them out with you and let them swarm throughout the earth, and reproduce and multiply on the earth. Every wild animal that is with you, of all flesh, symbolizes everything that was alive in the people of this church. The bird here, as before, symbolizes the ideas in their intellect. The beast symbolizes the urges of their will. Both of these people to the inner self, every creeping thing creeping on the earth symbolizes the corresponding attributes in the outer self. Take them out.
Yeah, because you see, it's like creeping, every creeping thing. Because I understand it like we can say that about some person, some evil, or yeah, like about some person, like he is like a snake. Yeah, he's like a snake, and it's about I think it's about this. Yeah, like a creeping thing, creeping on the earth, symbolizes the corresponding attributes in the outer self. Check them out.
With you symbolizes the level of freedom they had, and let them swarm throughout the earth symbolizes the way the inner self acts on the outer. Let them reproduce symbolizes increases in goodness. Let them multiply symbolizes increases in truth. On the earth means in the outer self. The symbolism of every wild animal that is with you of all flesh as everything that was alive in the people of this church can be seen from this. The wild animal refers to a quality in Noah, or in other words, in the people of this church. Now that they had regenerated, and it plainly looks ahead to the bird, beast, and creeping thing, since it says, "Every wild animal that is with you, of all flesh, including the bird and the beast, and every creeping thing creeping on the earth." The word for wild animal in the original language strictly means like or living thing. Yet in the word, it means that it means not only a living thing but also a relatively non-living thing, a wild animal. You can see why why those who do not grasp the word's inner sense will sometimes be at a loss as to its meaning. The reason the word means both living and non living is that the people of the earliest church, in the humbling themselves before the Lord, confessed the that they were non living, were not even good animals, but wild beasts. They knew intimately that this is what humans are, viewed in themselves or as independent creatures. So the same word means both a living thing and a wild animal. The meaning of wild animal as a living thing is evident in David. Your wild animal will live in its God's inheritance. You will strengthen the wretch person with your goodness, God. The wild animal, because it will live in God's inheritance, simply means a regenerate person and consequently, as here, a living quality in such a person in the same author. Every wild animal,
What is wretched?
wretch,
Like poor, yeah, poor person.
let's see,
Who knows?
no,
Wretched.
Ah,
miserable.
wretched.
Yeah, poor.
Wretched. Poor. Poor.
Mhm.
It's like worthless, too useless. Mhm. It's like poor.
Yeah. Okay.
Every wild animal.
Of the forest is mine. The beasts on mountains of thousands. I know every bird of the mountains, and the wild animal of my field is with me. The wild animal of the field with me, that is, with God, also stands for a regenerate person and so for the living qualities in that person in Ezekiel. In its branches nested every bird of the heavens, and under its branches breed no. Is it bread? No.
Bread.
Bread?
Bread. Bread like. Mm,
Red.
Oh,
it's like
brought up. No,
nurtured.
no, no, no.
Nor- it's like it's about children of animals like bread.
Race, like racing animal, right?
It's about nourishment. You see,
Mhm.
nurtured,
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 like
Nurtured.
like brought brought up
brought up.
animal.
Oh,
Like
yeah, I get.
ba- baby wolf, for example. Mm, and its branches bread every wild
Every
animal.
wild animal of the field. This passage describes the spiritual church as a plant. So the praise stands for the living qualities in the people of that church. In Hosea, I will strike a pact on that
Do you know
day
what is
with,
pact? Pact. The strike a pact. Yeah, I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
like a contract, agreement, contract,
Packed.
covenant. Yeah,
Oh,
covenant
agreement.
is like agreement, contract. I will strike a pact.
Thank you. On that day with the wild animal of the field and with the bird in the heavens. This is about people regenerating, with whom a pact will be struck. So strong is the meaning of the wild animal as a living thing, that even the guardian beings or angels seen by Ezekiel are called four wild animals. The fact that a wild animal in the word is taken in the opposite sense of a non-living thing or a savage creature can be seen in many places. Let this alone serve for proof in David. Do not hand the soul of your turtle dove over to the wild animal. In what is it again?
Oh, so,
Is it
Zephaniah. Zephaniah.
Zephaniah?
Savage creature, it's like a lion, maybe, yeah? Lion.
No idea.
Savage creature. If you see the picture of this, maybe savage creature, maybe lion,
It's like a wild animal.
wild animal. Yeah,
Like creepy?
like this. Yeah, do you see? It's savage creature like this. I'm not sure. Monsters. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's wild animals. Yeah,
Yeah,
savage creature.
definitely.
Hmm.
In Zephaniah. The city became a wasteland, a lair for the wild animal. In Ezekiel, they will no longer be plunder for the nations, and the wild animal of the land will not eat them.
What is this?
They are
Who who knows?
no idea.
Lair.
Lair is like den. It's like house for wild animals. House
Oh,
of wild animals, like house of bear or wolf.
House of Dragon.
Yeah, lair. Lair.
Lair.
Lair. Lair.
there. In the same author. On its wreckage will live every bird of the heavens, and among its branches will stand every wild animal of the field. In Hosea, I will devour them there like a lion. The wild animal of the field will rip them.
What is wreckage? Wreckage. On its wreckage, maybe it's the top of a tree. Wreckage. Ah, no.
Wreckage.
Wreckage is like
Crash.
ruins. Ruins. Ruins of a tree. It's about tree. Yeah. On its no, it's not about tree. Maybe it's about town or city. On its wreckage will live. Yeah, it's about ruins of that city. Wreckage.
Rip them apart. In Ezekiel, given to the wild animal of the land and to the bird in the heavens as food. This praise recurs often. The Jews struck exclusively to the literal meaning, understanding.
Recurs. What is this? Recurs. Like references. Oh
Recurs.
no, it's repeat.
Repeat
Repeat.
itself.
Recurs.
Hmm. Recurs. Understanding.
Wild animal as a wild animal and a bird as a bird, unwilling to see, much less acknowledge, any deeper content in the word or to learn about it. As a result, they were so cruel, so feral, and they found pleasure in refusing to bury enemies. Killed in battle, leaving the bodies out to be eaten by the birds and wild animals. This also this also demonstrates clearly what a wild animal a human being is. The bird symbolizes the ideas in their intellect, and the beast the urges
Urge.
of urges of their will, which belong to the inner self, while every creeping thing creeping on the earth symbolizes the corresponding attributes in their outer self. These things are established by the symbolism of a bird as discussed previously at and of a beast as discussed at that's it. The fact that a creeping thing creeping on the earth symbolizes the corresponding aspects of the outer self follows naturally because the creeping thing creeping is a reference to both the bird intellectual traits and the beast traits of the will. The earliest people called sensory information and physical pleasure creeping things creeping because they are just like creeping things creeping on the earth. The same uh, people also compared the human
Intellectual traits. Traits.
traits.
Traits.
It's like
Traits.
It's like
character.
characteristic.
It's like
Characteristic. Yeah,
feature.
like character of trait, like feature of character. Feature. Like if you are evil person, I can say it's your trait. It's like trait of your character. Evil or maybe angry.
Man, but bid man body to the earth or the ground, and even called it earth or ground. As here, where the earth just means our outer self. This is how it happens that a creeping thing creeping symbolizes the corresponding attributes in their outer self. In a person reborn, external traits respond to internal values, which is to say that they are obedient to them. Our outward
Obedient, like obey. Yeah,
obey,
obedient.
yes,
Yeah, obey.
Obedient.
Submissive.
submissive,
Subordinate.
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 Like subdue. For example, children must be obedient to their parents, like this. Obedient.
Outward aspects are reduced to obedience when we regenerate, and then we become an image of heaven. But until we have been reborn, external considerations overpower spiritual and heavenly ones, and then we are an image of hell. The proper order is for heavenly concerns to govern spiritual ones and
Govern.
govern.
It's, mhm.
Okay,
It's about
govern.
government. Government. It's about
Govern.
govern, like the C transcription, govern.
Govern.
Right.
Okay, govern spiritual ones, and through this to govern earthly ones, and through this finally to govern bodily ones. But when bodily and earthly
Demands, like requires, yeah.
Mhm.
Demands.
Demands.
Yeah, requirement. Require. Request. Demands.
control spiritual and heavenly ones. The hierarchy is destroyed, and when it destroyed, we are an image of hell. For this reason, the Lord restores the proper order through regeneration. Once it has been restored, we become an image of heaven. This is why the Lord draws us out of hell, and this is the way He lifts us up to heaven. Let me explain briefly how the correspondence of the outer self with the inner then
What is proper order?
Proper. Proper like
Proper.
orderly?
Yeah.
Like orderly
Properly.
something.
Yeah, orderly. Proper.
I know what is like proper name and common name. Yeah, for example, proper
Yeah,
name
like
and common name.
appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Appropriate, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Proper.
proper, like typical. How?
Typical.
Typical.
Typical. Mm-hmm. The proper order. And
Proper.
if two words like yeah,
Proper order.
like good order. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Correct. Stance is it understands. Then stance. Okay. Everyone who has regenerated in a kind of a miniature heaven or a model or image of the whole of heaven, which is why the word also calls our inner being a heaven. Things in heaven are structured in such a way that the Lord governs spiritual elements through heavenly ones and earthly elements through spiritual ones. So he governs all of heaven as a single individual. And heaven accordingly is also called the universal human. The scheme is the same for every person within heaven. When we reflect this hierarchy, we are each a miniature heaven, or to put it another way, a kingdom of the Lord. Since we have the Lord's kingdom inside us, the external traits correspond to, that is, they obey internal values in us just as they do in heaven. In the three heavens, which together present the image of a single person, spirits form the outer self, angelic spirits, an intermediate self, intermediate
Like
self,
level in English.
mhm,
Intermediate level. Yeah.
intermediate self, and angels, the inner self. The case is the opposite for those who locate life exclusively in bodily desires, or in other words, in cravings, physical pleasures, appetites, and indulgence of the senses. These are people who find nothing enjoyable unless it feeds their love for themselves and for worldly advantages, which is the same as feeding their hatred toward anyone who does not.
Care.
Feeding. Feeding is like to feed, like to give food. Yeah.
Of course, that's
Mhm,
an
mhm.
Mhm,
easy word.
mhm. Feeding does not cutter. Yeah.
Ca-
Hater?
Cater.
What is
Cater.
that?
I think that's
Mm,
cater.
cater. Maybe this
Cater
word
is
is separated. Maybe
No.
cater. 1 second. I will type to here. Cut cater.
Обслуживать.
I don't know.
Cater.
Cater. It's like serve, provide. Cater.
Cater.
It's like take care, serve, provide in this sense.
Like
And
providing foods and drinks, I guess.
That's like
Mhm. Feeding the hatred towards anyone who does not cater to and serve them. Yeah, like providing to with food. Like
mhm.
feeding.
Yeah.
It's about feeding. Cater. Yeah, for
Cater
example,
is
baby cannot a baby cannot cater to itself. Yeah, like cannot serve to itself or to himself. Okay, go on.
Cater to and serve them, because these people's bodily and earthly drives take precedence over spiritual and heavenly ones. Not only do their outward attributes fail to correspond or obey, they even put up total opposition. The proper hierarchy is utterly destroyed, and since it is utterly destroyed, those people can only be images of hell. The symbolism of trade.
What is utterly?
It means
Totally.
completely.
Totally,
Completely,
yeah.
totally. Yeah.
hmm
Utterly.
Completely, yeah.
Precedence. Precedence is also a really good word. Precedence. It is like a priority.
It's about president. It's
No,
from
it's not
president.
about president. It's about
I mean,
seniority, priority.
but it's like the same. I mean, maybe president is from this word, yeah, because it's like priority too, and
Yeah, it can be.
seniority. It's like
Yeah.
similar. hmm
Precedence.
Presidents. It sounds like in the same way.
Yes,
Presidents
it
and
seems.
president. Yeah, it's like the same thing, but with different writing. Presidents.
Mhm.
One letter. Yeah, one
It's not
president
the
and
same meaning though. It's a different meaning.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean a leader of a country.
Yeah,
seniority.
superior.
Seniority is like what is seniority? Seniority is like title. Yeah, like who is above of any country. Who is it's about power. Yeah, power like seniority. Not presidents. Okay. Next page. Yeah, the symbolism of take them.
Take them out with you as the level of freedom they had can they had can be seen from the discussion above at verse 15, showing that going out of the ark symbolizes liberty, and let them swarm throughout the earth symbolizes the way the inner self acts on the outer. Let them reproduce symbolizes increases in goodness. Let them multiply symbolizes increases in truth and
Are we reading the same page? I feel like we are reading the same page. You know, the words, the sentences sound similar to each other.
yeah, it's like it's explaining about word per word. I think that's what I observe.
Yeah, look at this warm word. I saw it before.
Swarm. Because it's explanation. It's
This
inner
is
meaning
deja
of
vu
the.
right now.
Swarm.
It's like crowd, horde, cluster.
Yeah.
It's like team in this sense. Like
Like
in this
a school
sense,
of
and let them
sheep, you know.
swarm.
Let them swarm throughout the
Like
earth.
multiply throughout the earth. Yeah, multiply maybe. Let them swarm. It's about multiplying like this. Yeah. I mean, it's about bees, for example. Yeah, bees swarm.
And on the earth means in the outer self, and this can be seen from the general line of reasoning. It can also be seen from earlier remarks and illustrations concerning the symbolism of reproducing and multiplying, showing that the word uses the former in connection with good and latter in connection with truth. The symbolism of the earth as the outer self was likewise demonstrated earlier. Consequently, need there is no need to spend time proving these things. The present verse speaks of the way the inner self acts on the outer after we have regenerated, revealing that good first reproduces itself and truth first multiplies when the outer self is reduced into correspondence or obedience. It can never happen before that because a bodily desires rebel against goodness and sense impressions rebel against truth. The former snuff out love for goodness, and the latter extinguish love for truth. Good reproduces and truth multiplies in the outer self, good reproducing itself in our feelings, and truth multiplying in our memory. The outer self throughout which good and truth swarm and on which they are produced and multiply is here called the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Who didn't read
Thank
else?
you. Who wants to read?
Okay, I think if nobody wants, it means that it is my turn. I think Genesis 8:18-19. And Noah and his sons went out, as did his wife and his sons' wives with him, every wild animal, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything creeping on the earth. By their families they went out of the ark. Noah and his sons means the people of the ancient church. Went out means came into being. His wife and his sons' wives with him means the church itself. Every wild animal and every creeping thing symbolize good things in them. The wild animal, good things in the inner self, and the creeping thing, good things in the outer self. And every bird, everything creeping on the earth symbolizes truth. The bird, truth in the inner self, and the thing creeping on the earth, truth in the outer self. By their families means pairs. They went out of the ark means as above that they all came into being, and at the same time it symbolizes a condition of freedom. Noah and his sons means the people of the ancient church. Went out means came into being, and his wife and his sons' wives means the church itself. This meaning is indicated by the storyline, which suggests like suggestions, it's like suppose,
Suggests.
suggests, it's like mean, propose, suggest, which suggests that the ancient church therefore came into existence, since these words are final ones, summing up all that came before. When the word describes the church, it uses either the phrase man and wife or the phrase human and his wife. When it uses man and wife, the man symbolizes an element of the intellect or something true, while the wife symbolizes an element of the will or something good. Element, how to pronounce? Element, maybe.
Element.
No, element. An element of the will or something good. When it uses a human and his wife, the human symbolizes the good that love embraces or love, while the wife symbolizes the truth and faith espouses or faith. So the human symbolizes the core quality of the church, while the wife symbolizes the church itself. This comes up over and over in the word. Since up to this point, the text has been speaking of the formation of a new church upon the death of the earliest church, Noah and his sons here symbolize the people of the ancient church, while his wife and his sons' wives with him symbolize the church itself. For this reason, the order of the phrases here differs, how to pronounce?
Differs.
Differs. The phrases here differs from that of verse 16, which says, "Go out, you and your wife, and your sons, and your sons' wives with you." This links you with wife and sons with sons' wives, so that you and sons symbolize truth, while your wife and your sons' wives symbolize good. In the current verse, though, the order is not the same, for the reason is as stated that he and his son symbolizes the people of the church, while his wife and his son's wife symbolizes the church itself. The clause, what is this? The clause is a conclusion. Clause.
Clause.
It's clause. It's like paragraph, article, section. Clause. The clause is a conclusion to all that came before. It was not Noah who constituted the ancient church, but his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, as noted before. In a sense, there were three churches that formed this ancient church, about which I will say more below, by the Lord's divine mercy. These churches came forward as if born from a single church, the one called Noah. That is why the present verse says Noah and his sons, and then his wife and his sons' wives. Every wild animal and every creeping thing symbolize good things in them. The wild animal, good things in the inner self, and the creeping thing, good things in the outer self. In addition, every bird, everything creeping on the earth symbolizes truth. The bird, truth in the inner self, and the thing creeping on the earth, truth in the outer self. This is established by the statements and explanations at the previous verse, Genesis 8:17, concerning the wild animal. The bird and the creeping thing, creeping, that verse referred to a creeping thing, creeping because it symbolized both the goodness and the truth in the outer self. Because these words sum up the preceding verses, they include this addendum.
Addendum. What is
What
that?
is this? Maybe addition? No, addendum. Yeah, addition.
Addendum.
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 Addition. Like additional document.
Mhm.
Addendum. This addendum about the church, specifically about its goodness and truth, and the phrase indicates what kind of church it was, a spiritual one. It also shows that it became the kind of church that placed its chief emphasis on charity. Emphasis, like sympathy, maybe.
Emphasis.
No, emphasis, attention, emphasis. It's like expressiveness, maybe attention. Okay. Emphasis on charity or goodness, which is why the verse mentions the wild animal and creeping thing first and the bird and thing creeping afterward. A church is called spiritual when it acts from charity or from the good the charity urges, and never when it claims to have faith without charity. Under those circumstances, it is not even a church. After all, what do the church's teachings about faith deal with if not charity? And why would the church teach anything about faith if not to have its teachings carried out? To know and think as faith teaches cannot have any reality doing what faith teaches. This alone exists. A spiritual church first becomes a church when it acts as bidden by charity. Bidden. Biden.
Bidden. Is it
Bidden.
bidden?
Bidden.
Bidden.
Bidden. Bidden is like invite. It's like order, offer, wish, bidden. It's like request, order. When it acts as bidden by charity, maybe like in this sense, like requires, request, yeah, or wish. Charity being the true teaching of faith. To put it another way, this is when a person in the church first becomes a church. Consider, what is a commandment? It does not order us to know a precept, but to live by what it says. To know a precept. What is precept?
Precept.
Precept, like regulation. It's about law. Rule, principle, commandment. To know a precept, but to live by what it says. This is when we first have the Lord's kingdom inside us, because the Lord's kingdom consists solely in mutual love and the happiness it brings. There are some who divide faith from charity and believe that the source of salvation is faith, a faith that is devoid of the good deeds urged by charity. They are followers of Cain, who killed their brother Abel. That is charity. They are also like birds circling over a corpse, because such a faith is a bird and the corpse is a person who lacks charity. They scrape together a pseudo conscience.
What is that?
Pseudo, like false, like looks like
Pseudo.
conscience.
Pseudo
You
conscience.
didn't get the whole word.
Pseudo conscience.
Oh,
Pseudo. Pseudo.
pseudo. Pseudo.
This word pseudo, like maybe
Like
it looks like conscience, but
false.
it's not
Like
false.
false
But
about
actually, not.
falsity.
No, it's about looking like, because false is like what is against truth, but pseudo is, it means it looks like conscience, but it's not conscience. It looks like
Okay.
conscience. Yeah. hmm Maybe in this case, they scrape, scrape, scrape.
Scrape.
Great.
Scrape. It's like scrape, maybe in the sense scrape. Like, I can't explain this word scrape. I can show picture maybe if someone wants to understand. But I think everyone knows
I
this word.
know what is that,
This.
but I don't know like what does it mean in a verb version, like in this context. They scrape together. What do you mean?
Mm, Maybe it's.
Oh, like
Mm,
digging? Is that digging together? Huh?
it's like maybe it's like I don't know. It's like figurative language. It's difficult to translate figurative language. They scrape together. Maybe. Yeah. It's like gather. I
Persecute.
think they
Persecute. What?
okay. It's like gather together. Maybe it's about
Pseudo.
collect. They collect together a pseudo conscience. Maybe
Conscious.
collect. Scrape.
Conscience. How do you read pseudo?
Conscience.
Pseudo.
Pseudo. It's pseudo.
Pseudo.
Yeah, do you hear?
Pseudo conscience.
Pseudo.
Pseudo-conscience.
Pseudo-conscience.
Okay.
Pseudo-conscience.
Pseudo-conscience.
Pseudo-conscience. This word is pseudo. Pseudo.
Pseudo.
We can see. Actually, I think we should see what is pseudo without conscience, and we can understand the meaning of this. Pseudo is like it's like you can. It's like your nickname. Like nickname is your pseudo. Yeah, nickname.
Okay.
Like it's like pseudo.
Pseudo.
Pseudo. Okay, I think I got it. Pseudo conscious.
I got it.
That tells them they can behave like devils, hate and persecute their neighbors, spend their whole lives in adultery, and yet be saved, as is extremely familiar in the Christian world. What could be sweeter to us than to hear and persuade ourselves then we can be saved, even if we live like a savage beast? Even non-Christians see that this is false, and many of them shudder at Christian teachings when they observe how Christians live. Another conclusion to be drawn is that nowhere do people live in a more despicable. Despicable. What is this? It's about picture, or it's about speaking. Yeah, despicable. More despicable. No, it's
Despicable.
about picture. No,
Pathetic.
Despicable.
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 It's
Unworthy,
disgusting.
shameful.
Disgusting.
Despicable. Pathetic. Pathetic.
Despicable. More despicable way than in the Christian world. The
Oh,
fact that by their
917. Is it a new chapter?
no, it's the same verse. I think
Okay.
it's section.
All right.
I will see. What is this? Maybe it's a lot. Yeah, it might be five, six, seven pages.
917.
I will read it quickly. The fact
Hi, I have
that
a
by the
question.
go on.
Can you make the text like smaller so it's gonna be like good for reading? Like, is it possible for you to make it smaller, the text? So in one page we can read more, sentences.
If I will make the font size smaller, it will be difficult to read on PC.
Yes.
And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I checked it out, and this font size is better to read and to
Okay.
translate.
All right.
Because you see, I can tap here and I can translate. It's more useful. Actually, it's good to read because you see like words are separated here, and it's more useful to read with separations because like families
Really?
you should understand what it means. Yeah, it's really because unclean. It's like it's training your reading.
Okay.
If you see a lot of um, because your brain works when you see this separation like words.
What
Separation of
happens when
words.
you turn your phone? What happens? Like, does it become like horizontal? The page. Now
It's
it is
very
vertical. Yeah. Is it
yeah, it's
possible for you to
vertical.
make it horizontal?
When pages are vertical, it's more it's more comfortable to read because, for example, if you read Bible, book Bible, every page of Bible has two columns, like
Interesting.
two.
Okay.
Yeah,
Understand.
it's more useful to read because you can because when you read big line, your eyes like jump between lines.
Yeah,
But
it's
if
not
you
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's more useful to read with columns actually.
Okay.
And because I can read more faster, do you see the fact that by their families means pairs can be seen from previous statements. And for example, if you read papers, yeah, maybe if you will buy papers have columns too, because papers is like large sheet, large
You're talking
paper.
about newspapers, right?
Yeah, newspapers. Yeah, if you buy newspapers, because
Yeah.
papers have a lot of columns, it's more useful to read, like little columns,
Yeah.
rows.
Okay.
The fact that by their families means pairs can be seen from previous statements about the entry of the clean animals 7 by 7 and of the unclean animals 2 by 2. The current verse, however, says that they went out by families. It says families and not 7 at a time or 2 at a time, because at this point the Lord has brought all elements into such good order that they represent families. In a regenerate person, virtues and truth of or the attributes of charity and so the attributes of faith relate to each other in such a way that they all regard each other as blood relatives and kin. That is to say, they regard each other as belonging to families that spring from the same stock or the same progenitor. The situation resembles that in heaven. This is how the Lord organizes our positive qualities and true ideas. The specific meaning here is that each and every form of good looks at its related truth as being united in marriage with itself. The way charity in general views faith is the same way that a single good impulse in particular always views a single truth. Actually, if you read, maybe you read, if you read on PC, Discord has full screen on PC,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
can do you use full screen? You can see
Yes.
it's more good to read. And
Yeah.
you can hide another readers. Discord has this option.
Sure.
The way that a single good impulse in particular always views a single truth. A general rule is not general unless it emerges from specific cases. It is from the specific cases that the general rule has its existence, and from them that it is described as general. The situation is the same in each of us. Whatever we are like generally, we are like in every smallest detail of our feelings and thoughts. These form our constituent parts. These form our constituent parts. Constituent, it's like constitution. Constitute.
Constituent.
Constituent. Constituent part. It's like found in forming parts. These form our constituent parts. This makes us what we are as a whole. So when people have been reborn, they become the same in the most minute. Someone said me one American said me that it is minute, but
Minute.
minute,
Yeah, it means small detail, right?
Minute.
yeah,
It has another
minute.
meaning, and it means small details, like minute details. in a sentence if you have to, use.
Yeah, and he said that this word like has different pronunciation from context. Yeah, it's like minute. It's
Minute.
if it is about time,
Yes.
it's minute. Yeah, but if it is about size, maybe minute. Yeah, in the most.
And there is another word, minutia, or wait, yeah, minutia, with the a at the end.
And here is
That's,
minute. Yeah, minute.
yeah, it is minute respects. Like it wouldn't make sense if it was time.
Yeah. They become the same in the most minute respects as they are overall. The fact that going out of the ark also involves a condition of freedom can be seen from remarks just above at verse 16 about going out of the ark. The nature of a spiritual person's freedom is indicated by the fact that the Lord governs such people through conscience. Those whose conscience governs them or who act on accord with their conscience act freely. Nothing repels them more than violating their conscience. Acting against conscience is hell to them. Obeying conscience is heaven. From this, anyone can see that the latter is freeing. The Lord governs spiritual people through a conscience that shows them what is good and true. This conscience, as noted, is formed in the intellectual part of their mind, and so is separate from the contents of their will. Since conscience is totally separate from the urges of our will, we obviously can never do anything good on our own. And since all religious truth comes from religious good, we obviously never think anything true on our own, only under the Lord's power. The appearance that we do it on our own is only an appearance. Moreover, as this is how things work, a person who is truly spiritual also acknowledges and believes it. From this, it stands to reason that the spiritual person's conscience is a gift from the Lord, that it is like a new will, and therefore that the person who has been created anew is supplied with a new will, and from this a new intellect. Next, who is next?
Okay, can I read?
Go ahead.
Genesis 8:20, and Noah built an altar to Jehovah and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. I don't know what is altar. Do you know?
Altar. It's like table in script in sanctuary in a temple, and
Okay.
I think it's better to show the picture.
Okay.
It's from
It's like a
message.
throne.
No, it's like a table maybe.
Ah.
Mm, yeah, like this. But actually, no. It's like it looks like maybe we should see Jewish altar.
What do you do there?
Like
Like you pray in front of it?
sacrifices.
Oh, you are gifting like some gifts to the God. You're putting your, things on it on altar.
You like
Yeah,
bread and wine. You
offered
can
burnt
you
offerings.
can
Yeah, yeah. As we can see, it says offered burnt offerings on the altar.
yeah, maybe temple, because like in churches, but I think it's more interesting to see the altar temple. Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it was like the altar of the Jewish Holy Temple. Like maybe, maybe
Interesting.
I didn't see it before. Yeah, maybe yeah. This is altar, or this is altar. It's like a table, but it's not like a table. Maybe. Yeah, and this is altar. It's like a
I get
table.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a
Mhm.
table. Okay. Interesting.
And do you see and offered burnt offerings on the altar? Yeah, it's like on the table. You can see
Yeah, yeah.
and offered burnt offerings on the altar. It's like you can put
Yeah, I'm
any
offering
animal.
yeah,
Mhm.
I am offering animal, bird of offerings on the altar.
Mhm.
Clean animal and of every clean.
Actually, it was
bird.
like a pile of stones, like a heap of stones, like uh, for on earliest people like
Uh-huh.
took a
Okay.
heap of stones and like
Mhm.
called that altar.
Okay. Noah built an altar to Jehovah, symbolizes the practice of representing
It doesn't
hello.
work again. Yeah.
Okay. Works. The Lord. He took of every clean animal and of every clean bird symbolizes the good effects of charity and the true ideas of faith, and offered burnt offerings on the altar symbolizes all the worship growing out of these things. This verse depicts the worship of the ancient church in general, using the images of an altar and a burnt offering, which were the main elements in all representative worship. First, however, however, I need to tell what the worship of the earliest church was like and how people came to worship the Lord in a representative manner. The people of the earliest church had no other kind of worship than internal worship, the kind of worship in heaven. In that church, heaven communicated with humankind in such a way as to form a single unit with it. The method of communication was perception, which is discussed frequently above. So, because the people of that church were angelic and had depth, they did not care about superficial bodily or worldly things, although they were, of course, aware of them in the individual objects of the senses. Rather, they perceived something divine and heavenly. When they saw a tall mountain, for example, they did not picture a mountain but perceived the idea of height, and the idea of height led them to the idea of heaven and the Lord. This is how
Yeah.
it
This
came
is
about.
it's interesting. Yeah, because for example, if I will show you um, about mountain, yeah, for example, you can think about mountain, yeah, but actually
Mhm.
you can think about height.
Yeah.
And what do you think about if you hear this word, this
Mhm.
term as mountain, for example? We can ask ourselves: is it about height? Yeah, but
It's
it's
about
interesting. Yeah,
height. Yeah.
yeah. Because when children think about mountain, they think like about only mountain, like like. But we can think about height. It's like the next level of thinking, in my understanding. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it's
I
like
mean,
more information. Hmm.
yeah. Because we didn't know what mountain is. And so we were only be able to think something uh higher. Is that the idea?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
and the idea of
For example,
height led them.
yeah. For example, it's about why do we need to think about mountain and why do we need to have mountain. If I will say to you, oh, this is a mountain, and you can say, oh, if I will be on the top of that mountain, I will see more far. Yeah, because it's about height. It's about seeing like this, maybe. Hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Hmm.
Height led them
Yeah,
to the idea
it's.
of heaven and
I
the
think
Lord.
it is his point of view, because they see, he says, when they saw a tall mountain, for example, they did not picture a mountain, but perceived the idea of height. Because it's more useful to think about mountain, because if you if you live on the ground, yeah, you cannot see far. If you are
Mhm.
if you are under mountain, but if you will be on the mountain, you can see far. Because it's about height. It's my understanding. Hmm.
Okay, interesting. So is that a intentional thing that God the Lord did uh when he wants us to think about the heaven and the himself? We needed something higher.
Yeah, for example, if you want to rule over that earth, for example, you should see that earth. Yeah, because but how can you see if you are on the mountain, because you cannot
Uh-huh.
see that earth. Now you can have helicopter like to see
Ah,
from height.
okay.
Yeah, but the earth, like
Yeah.
if you want to fight, for example, if you want
Uh-huh.
to rule over that earth, you should go to the mountain to see
I can
your
see more.
ownership. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I
you
can
see
see
like a
more.
plan,
Uh-huh.
plan of your earth.
Since I
Hmm.
can see more than the other people, that means I'm divine, right?
Yeah.
And yeah,
That
okay.
because God on the mountain, yeah, Lord on the mountain, because God can see more. He is like overseer, hmm in this idea, I think. Hmm. Yeah, it's about
Okay.
to the idea of heaven and the Lord. Yeah, and this is how. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
go on. This is
All right, yeah,
it
very
explains.
interesting stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
This is how it came about that the Lord was said to live on the heights, that he was called the highest one and most exalted, and that worship of him was later held on mountains. Because people were thinking they would only achieve, I mean, reach to the God when they are, on a higher uh, location, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it was the same with all other phenomena. Phenomena. How do you pronounce this?
Phenomena, maybe. My version is
Phenomena.
phenomena.
And what does it mean?
Phenomena.
Phenomena, yeah, I am correct. Phenomena.
Phenomena.
Manifestation.
Phenomena like effect, like event, manifestation, yeah,
Phenomena.
like natural phenomena. Like if you see
Mm-hmm.
hailstone, it's like natural phenomenon.
Okay. It was the same with all other phenomena. When they thought of morning, for instance, they did not think of the early hours of the day, but of the.
Yeah, they see. We can suppose in this sense because earliest people were more wise, and they see he means when they thought of morning, for instance, they did not think. Yeah, for example, when you think about morning, if I will say to you, mm, the morning, uh, do you think about early hours of the day, like, or not?
Okay.
What do you think
What
about
what are we thinking? Like what are we thinking?
morning? Maybe I think about light. Yeah, because morning is like at night you don't see light of our sun. Yeah,
Mhm.
but if I think
Yeah, it's
about
the
morning, I think
rising.
about
Yeah, sun rising.
sun.
It's
Yeah.
light. It's It's resembling with the God, with the Lord.
Mhm.
Okay.
But you can think about hours and time, like watch.
Well,
Yeah, maybe.
nowadays in modern era, people are thinking work. You know, in early hours, they don't want to get up. You know, but
Yeah,
in the religious book, it's completely different.
yeah. I should think about. I can think about my job and about my work. I should hurry
Yeah,
up. Mhm.
not
Okay,
think
of
early
the
hours,
day,
but
but of the
of the quality of
quality.
heaven, which is like the morning or dawn in a person's mind. So they called the Lord the morning, the east, and the dawn. Likewise, likewise, when they perceive a tree with its fruit and leaves, they ignored these details, seeing in them instead the representation of a human being, love and charity being the fruit, and faith, the leaves. As a result, they not only compared members of the church to a tree and to a whole paradise and character traits.
What does it mean, paradise?
Paradise means
Paradise.
heaven.
Is heaven?
Heaven.
Yeah,
Heaven and hell, you know. Paradise
paradise.
is heaven.
Yeah, and what is the meaning of this? We should explain the meaning of paradise. And in my understanding, paradise, we understand paradise. It's like about happiness. Yeah, where we are
Afterlife,
happy.
when you get
Yeah.
rewarded by the God if you did good things.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it's
heaven. That is not paradise.
What is paradise?
okay. What is paradise?
Paradise. Paradise.
So it's
Paradise.
just a heavenly place.
Yeah,
Paradise
heaven
is
and
a place
paradise.
or condition of great happiness where everything is exactly as you would like it to be.
Okay, that's basically heaven.
Yes, it's
Hello,
heaven.
Paradise.
everybody.
Mhm.
Hello.
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 How are
And
you doing?
characters. I'm doing alright. We are doing alright. We are actually reading this book.
What
And
kind of book are you reading?
what is the name of this book, Swedenborg?
You can see this book. It's Secrets of Heaven by Manuel Swedenborg. You can see this book.
Yeah, I heard
Secret
this book.
of
Really
heaven.
great book, I think.
Yeah,
Secrets of
interesting.
heaven.
We are learning a lot of new words actually.
Ah,
And,
yeah.
and
Everyone is
if you want to read, too, you can read next verse in return. If you
Yeah, you
like
wanna
to.
read Navruza?
Yeah, of course. Second one?
Yeah, like you can start from the beginning, like from this is what. You can start
Ah,
from there.
okay.
Can
This
I
is what
can I read?
people
Yeah,
have
you
a
can also read after Navruza.
angelic
But
way of seeing. What
What?
is the meaning of angelic?
Angelic, it means like angel. It's about angel.
Ah,
Angels.
yes, yes, yes. I know. Yeah, I know. I got it.
It's like
Hmm?
citizens of heaven.
Ah,
Angels
yeah.
are citizens of heaven.
Yes,
Citizens
I
of
know.
paradise.
Something very good.
Yes, of
And
course. Oh,
if you will live good life, and if you'll do good deeds, you will be an angel in heaven too.
yes, yes, of course. By the way, I want to ask one question.
Go ahead.
yeah.
In this channel, all people should discuss books because I do love reading books.
Well, there's a chat tabs where you can type things down.
What?
Say that again. I didn't catch your point of view.
There's a chat tabs where you can type things down.
Yeah, but I think speaking is more easier than typing.
Yeah, but people are in the middle of reading a book.
That's actually a
Yeah.
good idea to discuss books, what books you are reading or what kind of books you are interested in. But at this moment, we are reading this book, and the majority of the room is doing this. So, in a later time, in a different time, we can also discuss books. Nauruza?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can read this book and we can discuss about this
Yeah.
book. For example, if you have any comments, you can say your comments, and I can say my comments, and we can discuss about it.
I think we're.
Okay.
I think
Now
we're.
should we?
Also, there is another voice chat that is for book club reading.
Yeah. When we
It's-
join that room, our mode, you have to change your mode to push to talk. And
Oh, that's kind of sucks.
yeah, it's better like this because when somebody joins, they can be able to talk with us. They can be participate. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
in
can
this
go
channel
ahead.
it's like
Uh-huh.
a round table. In this channel, it's like a round
Yeah.
table.
Mm-hmm.
But in that channel is like a stage, and you are like on the stage, and you can speak. But
Yeah, and people just
everyone will
joins
listen to
and
it.
leaves. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You wanna continue now, Riza?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, everyone is capable of realizing that our general viewpoint governs all our specific perception, including, of course, all our sense
Perception.
impressions, whether acquired through our eyes or ears. In fact, we lack any interest in the objects of our like.
It's
Perception. Perception is how you know something. It's like how you think about like a certain
Perception.
matter point. Let's call it perception.
I think perception is like you can attend or like you can be part of the something.
Everyone has their own perception, right?
Perception.
Yeah.
Perception is how you view something. I was like, what do you think? Like, what's your thought about something? It's called perception.
It's like awareness. Yeah, awareness, sensation. Influence. Go on.
Continue, please.
Senses unleash the mag part of that overall picture to those whose hearts are glad. For instance, everything they hear or see appears cheerful and smiling. But to the depressed, everything they see or hear seems grim and melancholy. It's true. Pronounce me. The same
Melancholy.
is
It's
true.
melancholy.
Melancholy. Yeah.
Melancholy.
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 It's
Yeah.
sorrow.
Yeah. The same is true in all other cases as well because our general mood pervades everything and causes us to say and hear everything within the context or our overall mood. Nothing outside the. Can you Can you
What,
continue like
what is grim?
I don't
green
know.
like
Can you check it out, please?
Grim. It's
green?
like
I
Gloomy.
think
Gloom.
scary,
Mm.
terrible.
green. I think mood like sad or like
Yeah.
It's about
Sad.
mood.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sad.
sad is better. Better. Yeah.
Sad mood.
He seems.
yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, here
Green.
seems sad in melancholy. Text
mhm.
is even continue. Can I continue?
Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Text is even visible but is virtually absent or irrelevant. The situation was the same with the people of the earliest church. Whatever they saw with their eyes had a heavenly character for them. So for them, absolutely everything seemed alive. This indicates what their worship or good was like, internal and not at all external. We in the church how can you pronounce this word? Deteriorated.
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 Deter-
Deteriorated. Deteriorated.
Deteriorated.
Yeah.
Deteriorated.
Deteriorate. I cannot say it.
Deteriorated.
yeah, me too. It's really challenging.
Deteriorated. Deteriorated.
Deteriorated.
Ah,
Deteriorated.
we should separate and we should say, for example, deteriorated. Deteriorated. Like
Deteriorate.
Deteriorated.
Deterior.
Deteriorated. Deteriorated. Yeah. So you slow it down and you adjust your speed. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
we should
that later.
practice this word after the
Mhm.
sex. Okay, succeeding generation and the perception that communication with heaven began to die out, the situation started to change. People were no longer perceiving anything of heaven in the objects of their sense is earlier generation had, but only things of the world, and the less perception they had lived, the more this tendency increased. It last year final inherits who lived just before the flood, saw nothing but what was worldly, physical and earthly in those objects. By this means, heaven was separated from humankind and catered to communicate with it.
Ceased.
Kissed, ceased,
Ceased. Ceased.
ceased, sorry. Except in a very remote way. A line of contact with hell then opened for humanity, and this became the source of their general perspective, which in turn is the source of all particular nations, is has been noted. After that, when the suggestion of something heavenly came up, the discount.
This word is notions. Notions. Like
Notions.
noted.
Notion.
Discounted. Discounted like discounter, yeah?
Yeah,
It's
for
about
example,
count.
yeah, it's more cheaper, like
75% discount, right?
Mm. Yeah.
no, for example, sometimes markets give discount because they want to sell something more and you can
Sure.
buy it with discount.
Mm.
So it can be like 50,
More
half
cheaper.
price down,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this, half price.
or 75%
Yeah, like
discount.
this. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
until finally they did not even want to admit that anything spiritual or heavenly existed. So humankind's condition turned upside down since the Lord foresaw. It's the similar word or
Foresaw.
it's foresaw.
Like
What's the meaning?
it's one word like to see everything. Foresaw. No, it's like to see in future.
Foresaw is to to
Foresee.
see beforehand. So it's like a look into like the future, right? It's like you have some sort of prediction. Like you think it would happen, yeah. So you see it
It's like a
beforehand.
prediction. Yes? It's like prediction.
Yeah.
Prediction.
Exactly.
Okay. This was what the human condition would become. He arranged for religious teaching to remain preserved and available so that from them people could learn what was heavenly and what was spiritual. This teaching obtained from the people of the earliest church were gathered by the individuals known as Cain and is in how can I pronounce this word Enoch or Enoch?
Enoch.
I think they are
Enoch.
just names.
They're just names. So.
Enoch. He have already been discussed. This is why it is said of Cain that a mark was put on him to prevent his murder, and of Enoch that God took him. See the treatment of those details at Genesis 4:15 and 319. to 394 in the Genesis 544 and 521. These doctrinal formulations consisted exclusively in symbolic language, and so in what seemed to be enigmatic, saying, telling. Enigmatic. What is the meaning?
Enigma. It's
Enigma.
enigma. It's
Enigmatic.
it's like mysterious. Yeah,
Enigmatic.
it's like any enigma. Yeah, like you cannot guess. Maybe
Ah,
enigma.
yeah.
I can't explain. It's like maybe
It's
children's story.
mysterious and impossible to understand completely.
Ah,
It's
yeah.
like puzzling, puzzling, mysterious.
It's hidden.
It's real. Yeah, maybe it's really academic, or it's really it's not comprehensible. Yeah.
Yeah, we can say that, I guess.
Yeah. For example, if you don't see your cat, where is your cat? It's enigma for you because you don't
That's
see
true.
your
Yeah,
It's
I
cat.
so
got
much
You don't
enigma,
know
though.
where is your cat.
So
that.
no, it's
Yeah.
like
You don't have any chance to say anything.
it's more like when you try to figure out a new person, right? But they don't reveal that much information. They turn out to be
Yeah.
like very
For
enigmatic.
for example, I don't know about you, and I don't say anything about you like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Hmm. It's like symbolic language. Symbolic language is a figurative language too. Yeah, we can say
Yeah.
symbolic language is language of figures of speech like this. It's because
Yes.
I understand symbolic language. I understand it's like the next kind of language because we can transmit more information from figures of speech. Yeah, it's like it's about
Yeah.
information. For
Uh-huh.
example, if I will say to you, "This is a mountain," and you can think only about mountain. But if you will use figurative language, and I can say the mountain, and you should think about mountain in figurative sense. It's like about it's about height. Yeah, it's about see far
Forest,
like this.
green,
Mhm,
wild
mhm,
animals, nature, cold, a lot of things.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, just move on.
Yeah. What was meant by things found on earth, such as mountains, symbolizing heavenly attributes and the Lord. The morning and the east, again, heavenly attributes and the Lord. Different kind of trees and their fruits, people and their heavenly qualities, and so on. And such things that their articles of doctrine consist in the very gathered together out of the sign and symbols of the earliest church can I continue?
Th-
Can you move
This
to
word
another
is
page?
doctrine. Doctrine. It's not
Doctrine.
doctrine. Doctrine.
Doc,
Doctrine.
doctrine.
Teaching.
Doctrine.
Doctrine
Yeah,
means
doctrine.
their writing.
Doctrine.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. Their writing exhibited the same character since what they admired for its antiquity and felt they could discern and that literature was the divine and the heavenly component. They were allowed to establish for themselves a form of worship based on similar features. What that was the inspiration for their worship on mountains, in groves and among the trees, for their open air sculpture, and for the old altars and burnt offerings.
What is exhibited?
Hmm?
Exhibited. What is exhibited?
Exhibited.
Ah.
Exhibit.
Exhibited.
Exhibited.
Like
Like show
exhibition.
something to yeah, show
Exhibition.
something
Showing,
to somebody,
Exhibition.
especially in the public.
Mm-hmm.
It was like for
demonstrate.
like demonstration
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
demonstration, show, especially in the public place.
to show to
I went to an art exhibition.
yes, basically that.
Mm-hmm. And what is this? Who knows?
Is this originated from antiquity?
What it means? What it means?
It means like it can be an era. It can be an era like the first humans.
It was like very old, antique.
Very old. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like it's antique.
It's the adjective of antique.
Yeah.
And okay. Next page.
So
Please,
did it eventually what?
Please continue.
Eventually become the main features of all worship. The people of the ancient church initiated his worship and from them in spirit to their descendants and to
Descendants.
all descendants and to all the surrounding nations, and is date many other aspects of their worship. This will be discussed later. 1238, 1241, and 21.
Numbers don't matter. Numbers don't matter.
The Lord in His divine mercy willing. The symbolism of no. How can I pronounce this word? No.
Noah. I think Noah.
Noah.
Yeah. No.
No. Built an altar to Jehovah is the practice of representing the Lord can be seen from the things just now said. All the rituals of the ancient church represent the Lord is the ritual of the Jewish religion, but the chief item representing him came to be altar along with the burnt offering because it was clean animals and birds that were offered. The representation matched the symbolism. Wolved clean animals, meaning the good effects of charity, and clean birds, the true ideas of faith. Faith.
Faith.
How?
It's not faith.
Faith.
Faith is different word. It's faith. Faith.
Yeah. When the people of the ancient church offered up such creatures, it meant symbolically that the gifts they offered the Lord consisted of those attributes. Nothing else can be offered to the Lord that's pleasing to Him. Their descendants, however, like the surrounding nations and the Jew, to corrupted the practice, not realizing that. Has any symbolic meaning, and viewing all worship is an external affair. The fact that the old altar was the main object to represent the Lord can also be seen from this. Before the establishment of any other kind of ritual, before construction of the ark, before the building of the temple, there were altars even among non-Jewish nations. We see that when Abram came to the mountain on the east of Bethel, he constructed all an altar and called on Jehovah, main Jesus. He was ordered to offer Isaac up as a burnt offering on an altar. Genesis, Jacob built an altar at Luz, which is Bethel. And Moses built an altar at the foot of Mount Sinai and offered a sacrifice. This was before the establishment of the sacrifices and before the construction of the ark, around which the latter conducted the, their, their worship in the wilderness. By the same token, we know about the existence of altars among non-Jewish nations from the story of Balaam, who told Balak to build 7 altars and prepare 7 heads of cattle and 7 rams. And it was decreed that those nations' altars should be destroyed. For instance, and Deuteronomy, I don't know, in Judges. So the use of altars, the sacrifices in the worship of God was not in innovate. Can you move? Innovation on the part of the Jews. In fact, before people knew anything about slant, how can I pronounce this word? Slaughtering.
Slaughtering.
What?
Slaughtering.
What?
You can hear slaughtering.
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 Slaughtering. Yeah.
Like to
It's
kill.
like
It's like to kill.
to kill
Kill.
cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut,
Yes,
Slaughter.
cattle.
destroy like this. Cattle and the smaller livestock on all altars, they were building them in is memorials. The symbolism of altars is the practice of representing the Lord, and the of burnt offerings is the resulting worship of Him. Is clearly evident in the prophets. One example is Moses' prophecy concerning the tribe of Levi to whom to praise. Can you move? Priesthood was assigned. They will teach you your judgments to Jacob, and your law to Israel. They will put
Ins- incense.
in, incense in your
Hmm.
nostrils, and who
Nostrils.
will burn nostrils, yeah, and a whole burnt offering on your altar. This is about the totality of worship. They will teach your judgments to Jacob in your law to Israel. Yeah, can you move? Israel stands for inner worship. They will put in incense in your nostrils, and a whole burnt offering on your altar. It stands for outwards worship that corresponds to inward worship. So the verse stands for the totality of worship in Islam. It's true, yeah?
Isaiah.
Sahih?
Isaiah.
What? Isaiah.
Yeah.
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
It's a prophet. Name of prophet of.
Yeah, I know. On the day, humanity will look to its Maker. Its eyes will regard the Holy One of Israel, and it will not look the altars, the work of its hands. Looking to altars plainly stands for representative worship in general, which was to be abolished in the same author. On the day there will be an altar to Jehovah in the middle of the land of Egypt, and a pillar to be. How can you pronounce this name? Jehovah.
Yeah, Jehovah. Jehovah. Jehovah.
Jehovah, yeah, by its border. Here to the altar stands for internal worship, and the
External.
Lord has what?
External.
External,
You
yeah, yeah,
said it.
sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Lord has dissertated his altar, has despised his san- sanctuary. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
sanct-
sanctuary. Hmm.
sanctuary. Yeah, the altar stands for representative worship, which become idolatrous. It's true.
Idolatrous.
Idolatrous, yeah. In Hosea, yeah.
Hmm.
Can you pronounce this word? First word,
Hosea,
if
maybe.
no, next word, this one. If
Hosea.
Hosea,
Hosea. Hosea.
Hosea,
Hosea.
Hosea. Hosea is the name of prophet. Another
yeah.
prophet.
Please
Multiplied
continue.
altars for what?
Please continue.
Yeah, altars for sinning. It had altars for sinning. The altars stand for every act of representative worship cut off from its inner meaning, and so for idolaters' practice in the same author, the lofty place of. Can you move? Even
The
the
lofty
scene,
places of. Uh-huh.
yeah, the scene of Israel will be destroyed. Horn and Hestel will climb over their altars. Again, the altars stand for idolatrous worship in Amos. On the day that I exact punishment on Israel for its transgressions, transitions, I will also
Well,
bring how
transgressions.
to
It's like
transgressions.
crimes. Crimes. Transgressions.
Okay.
I,
Who
I will
keep
also
going?
bring punishment.
Punishment on the altars of Bethel, and the horn of the altar will be chopped off. Once more, the altars stand for representative practices that become idolaters in David. They will bring me to your holy mountain and to your dwelling places, and I will go into God's altar to God my happiness and joy. The altar obviously stands for the Lord, so the construction of an altar in the ancient and the Jewish church stood for the practice for representing the Lord, since the principal means for carrying out worship of the Lord were burnt offering and the sacrifice, and these were consequently the principle. Symbols for representative worship. It stands to reason that the altar symbolizes representative worship itself. The symbolism of he he took of every
Took.
clean animal it took
Took.
yeah, took of every clean animal and of every clean bird is the good effects of charity and the true ideas of faith has been demonstrated before. The symbolism of an animal is the good effects of charity was shown in and of the birds is true ideas of faith, and cattle and lambs and the goats and turtle doves of pigeon chicks were used in burnt offerings. Numbers this animal. What?
Pigeon, not pigeon. Pigeon. It's a good. Yeah, pigeon.
Thank you. As these animals were clean and each of them symbolized some particular attribute of heaven, since they had a symbolic meaning in the ancient church and a representative meaning in the subsequent churches, it can be deduced. How can I pronounce this word? Dedicate?
Deduced.
Deduce.
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 It's
Yeah,
like
deduce.
conclude. Yeah, it's like conclude. hmm Deduced that.
That burnt offerings and sacrifices were nothing but representation of inner worship. It can also be deduced that when separated from internal worship, they were idolatrous. Anyone of sound reason can see this. What is an altar but a heap of stone? What is burnt offering of our sacrifice but the slaughter of an animal? If it's divine worship, it must represent something heavenly that the worshippers know about and acknowledge, and that inspires them to worship the one whom they are representing. The only person who can fail to realize that the things represented the Lord is one who absolutely refuses to develop any understanding of the Lord. The lens through which the one represented is to be then acknowledged and believed is that of inner qualities, namely charity and the faith that springs from it. This is quite evident in the prophets, isn't Jerem,
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah? Jeremiah. Yeah. Ju- Jewel in God of
Sabaoth.
Israel, has said, eat your burnt offerings to your sacrifices and eat the meat. I did not speak to your ancestors or command them on the day when I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning the matters of burnt offering in sacrifice, but this word I commanded them, saying, obey my voice, and I will become your God. Hearing of obeying a voice is obeying the law, which has to do entirely which one and only commandment that as you
Entirely.
were law. What?
Entirely.
Entirely. Entirely. That they were to love God above all and their neighbor is themselves, because the law and the prophets consist in this. In David, sacrifice and gift you have not wished for burnt offering, and sin sacrifice you have not thought. I have desired to do your will, my God, and your law is in the middle of my belly. When Samuel said to Saul, does Jehovah take is my satisfaction in burnt offering and sacrifices is in obedience to Jehovah's? Sorry, I can't read this word.
Jehovah's.
Voice look Jehovah's. Jehovah's,
Jehovah.
yeah. Jehovah's voice obedience is better than sacrifice, attentiveness than the fate of rams. Anyone
What is
can
it?
read.
The fat.
Oh,
Anyone can
attentiveness.
read. Anyone can read. Continue.
Yeah, I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Micah tells what obeying his voice is. Am I to meet Jehovah with burnt offerings, with calves that are offspring of a year? Will Jehovah take satisfaction in thousands of rams, in in myriads of rivers of oil? He has pointed out to you, friend, what is good and what is Jehovah requires of you, but to carry out. Uh,
Judgment. Yeah.
Judgment and the love of mercy, and to be humble walking with your God. Micah 6:6, 6:7, 6:8. These are the things that burnt offering and sacrifice of clean animals and birds symbolize. In Amos, if you offer me your burnt offering and gifts, I will not accept them. And oh my God. And the peace offering of your fattened animals will not regard. Let judgment flow like the water, and justice like a mighty river. Judgment is truth, and justice is goodness, both of them flowing from charities, which is the burnt offering and sacrifice of the inner self. In Hosea, mercy I wish for, and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. This passage shows what quality sacrifice and burnt offerings have where there is no charities or faith. They also show that clean animals and clean birds symbolize and therefore represent the good effect of charities and the true ideas of faith. The symbolism of and he offered burnt offerings on the altar as all the worship growing out these things. It's evident from what has been said so far. Burnt offerings were the main elements in the worship of the representatives church, as were sacrificed later on, which will be discussed below by the Lord's divine mercy. The fact that burnt offerings symbolize our representatives' worship as a whole can also be seen in the prophets, as in David. Jehovah will send your help from his sanctuary, and from Zion he will sustain you. He will remember all your gifts and make your burnt offering fat.
What is sustain? He will sustain you. Like help, yeah?
Means no, you can continue. Like it's not harmful.
Sustain?
To preserve,
Sustain.
It's like support.
to
Support.
bear, to withstand.
Hmm. He will sustain you.
And in Isaiah, all who kept the Sabbath and avoid profaning it, I will bring them to my holy mountain. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifice will bring great pleasure on my altar. The burnt offering and sacrifice stands for awe. Worships. Burnt offering stands for worship from love, sacrifice for worships from the faith that comes of love. Internal attributes are described here by external actions, as they so often are in the prophets. Genesis 8:21. And Jehovah smells a restful smell, and Jehovah says in his heart, I will never again curse the ground of the human being's account, because what humans' hearts fabricates its evil from their youth, and I will never again strike every living things that I have done. Jehovah smell, a restful smell, means that worship rising out of those things was pleasing to the Lord. And Jehovah thoughts in his heart means that it would no longer happen this way. I will never again curse the ground, mean that humanity would no longer turn its backs in this way. On the human being's account, mean in the way. Peoples among the earliest descendants had done what human hearts fabricate its evil from their youth. Means that the volition human mind is evil. I will never again strike every living things as I have done means that people could no longer destroy themselves in this way. Jehovah smell, a restful smell, means that worships rising out of those things. In other words, worships inspired by charities and by the faith that's come of charities, as symbolized by the burnt offerings, was pleasing to the Lord. This meanings was mentioned as the previous verse, 9:22:2-3. The word often say that Jehovah smell a restful smell, chiefly from burnt offerings, and in each of those places it symbolized something pleasing or welcome. Passage describing him as smelling a restful smell includes the following from burnt offerings: Exodus 29:18, 25:41, Leviticus 1:9, 13:17, 23:12, 13:18, Numbers 28:6, 8, 13, 29:2, 13, 36. From other kind of sacrifice, Leviticus 2:9, 6, 15,
Maybe
21.
numbers don't matter. Yeah, maybe numbers don't matter because maybe you could.
Okay,
Yeah.
both are referred to as fire offering that serve as a restful smell of Jehovah, meaning that love and charity were the source. In the world, fire and fire offering associated with the Lord and with the worship of Him, symbolizing love. Red has a similar meanings, so that representative worships employing burnt offerings and sacrifice is also called the breath of a fire offering to Jehovah that serve as a restful smell. A smell symbolizes something pleasing and welcome, as a result of which the Jewish religions also use it to represent something pleasing and attribute the smelling of it to Jehovah, of the Lord. This is because the good embraced by charities and the truth espoused by faith that stems from charities correspond to pleasant, agreeable smells. Auras in the heaven of spirits and angels can demonstrate that this correspondence does exist and can show what its nature is like. In that world, auras of love and faith exist, and the inhabitants perceive them distinctly. The aura are such that when a good spirit or an angels or a community of good spirits or angels come on the scene, others immediately discern, if the Lord's pleased, what kind of love and faith the spirit, angels, or community has. They can tell this from a distance, and the perceptions grow stronger as close quarter. It is incredible yet absolutely true. This is how communication and perceptions in the all life work. When the Lord please, then there is no need to probe extensively to find out what a soul or spirit is like, since it can be recognized as the person's first approach. This aura have their counterparts in earthly aromas. The correspondence between the two is clear from this, that in the word of spirits, when it pleased the Lord, auras of love and faith are manifestly embodied in clouds of sweet, pleasant fragrance and are manifestly perceived there. This explains why a restful smell symbolized something pleasing, why the Jewish religion came to use fragrance in a representative way, and why they saw Jehovah or the Lord as sensing the restful smell. A restful smell is peaceful smell, or in other words, the pleasing quality of peace. Peace enfold in a single embrace each and every facet of the Lord kingdom, because the state of the Lord kingdom is a state of peace. All the happy state that result from love for the Lord and faith in Him emerge in a state of peace. What I just been said shows not only how the case stand with representative worship, but also why the Jewish religion used incense, for which an altar was provided in front of the veil and the appeasement cover of the ark. The same discussion shows why offerings of frankincense. What is that?
Frankincense.
Yeah, frankincense.
Frankincense.
It's like incense.
Okay. Had a place among their sacrifice, and also why they use so many fragrance extracts in their incense, frankincense, and anointing oil. So it's demonstrated that in the word a restful odors, the burning of incense and perfumes also symbolize the heavenly characteristic of love and the spiritual characteristic of faith derived from them in general. Anything pleasing that develop out of them in Ezekiel, for example. On my holy mountain, on the mountain of Israel, high ground, there are the house of Israel. The whole of that house in the land will serve me. There I will accept them, and there I will seek your raise offering, and the first fruit of your gifts in all your consecrations, because Of the restful smell I will accept you. Ezekiel 20:41. The restful smell applies to the burnt offering and gifts, that is, to worship inspired by charity, and the faith that comes of charity. This worship beings that the burnt offerings and gifts symbolize. Such worship is accordingly accepted, which is what the sense means in Amos. I have hated, I have spurned, I don't, I don't know what that word is. Spurned?
Burnt, like spit. Burnt. Burnt is like to spit out, like reject,
Spurned.
or push away,
Okay.
reject it.
Spasiba. Spurn your feast in wool, and I will not smell the incense of your holidays, because if you offer me your burnt offering and gifts, they will not be accepted. Here, the smell explicitly means something pleasing or acceptable. Of Isaac's blessing on Jacob's instead of Esau's, we read. When Jacob had stepped close, and Isaac had kissed him, and smelled the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son. See, oh, like the smell of the field that Jehovah has blessed." The smell of the clothing symbolized earthly goodness and truth, which is pleasing because it harmonized with heavenly and spiritual goodness and truth. Its pleasing quality it expressed as the smell of a field. The meaning of Jehovah says in his heart as the fact that it would no longer happen this way will be seen from what follows. When Jehovah is spoken of as saying, it means that a thing happens or does not happen in this way, or that it is to happen or not to happen in this way. After all, nothing else can be said about Jehovah than he is. Action or traits that passage in the world or in the word of often attributed to Jehovah mentioned for the sake of those whose mind cannot grasp anything beyond ordinary human experience. That is why the literal sense has the nature that it does. As simple as heart can learn from the appearance with which we all live. They hardly venture beyond what their sense revealed to them. So the word speaks at their level of understanding. Such is the case here with the statement that Jehovah says something in his heart. I will never again curse the ground on the human being accounts. Means that humanity would no longer turn its back in the way people among okay. Among the earliest church descendants has done. This can be seen from earlier statement about the posterity of the earliest church for the inner level symbolism of cursing as turning away. See above. The situation here and in what's followed can also be seen from previous description, comparing the earliest church, later generations, which perish, for the new church
Alexa, stell den Timer auf 2 Stunden.
situation includes the. Okay, let me change my voice.
Alexa, lösch den Timer.
Facts that people no longer turn their backs at members of the earliest church had done, and that they were no longer able to destroy themselves, as noted in those places. The will and intellect of people in the earliest church constituted a single mind for them. In other words, love was found in the volitional side, and at the same time, so was faith, which filled the second part of the mind, or the intellectual sides, their descendants consequently inherit a will and an intellect that form a single unit. So when self-love and the mad desire that it spawned started to take over their volitional side, displacing love for the Lord and charity towards their neighbor, it wholly corrupted not only the volitional side or the will, but at the same time the intellectual. The corruption intensifies when the final generation merge. Falsities with their cravings by this means became Nephilim. Having become Nephilim, they could not be salvaged because their mind on both its side, that is, their whole mind was destroyed. But since the Lord foresaw this, He also provided that humankind should be rehabilitated. The mean would be an ability to reform and regenerate a second or intellectual part of their mind, and to receive in it the seed of a new will.
Rehabilitated. What it's about inhabited, yeah?
Yeah,
What is it? No.
Restore,
Rehabilitated.
reconstruction.
Restored. Reconstruct. Renovate. Rehabilitated. Okay.
Rehabilitated. Revenue. Rehabilitate revenue. The new will is conscience.
Conscience.
Yeah, conscience through which the Lord puts into action the good urge of love or charities in the true ideas of faith. In this way, by the Lord's divine mercy, humankind was restored. These are the things symbolized in the current verse, but I will never again curse the ground on a human being account, because what human hearts fabricate is evil from their youth, and I will not strike every living thing again as I have done. Okay, anyone else want to read? So I read to you.
Who wants to continue from this? It's 3 pages. Maybe you can read, and I think this reading will be over like this. Maybe 3 pages. I mean, you can finish before Genesis 8:22. It's 3 pages if you can, maybe.
The meaning of what human hearts fabricate is evil from their youth, as the fact that the volitional sides of the human mind is completely evil is established by the statement just above. What the heart fabricates has no other meaning. We think that we have a will to do good, but we are wholly mistaken. When we do good, it is not our will, but a new will that is the Lord's, and so the Lord Himself that moved us to do so. By the same token, when we think and speak what is true, the source is a new intellectual capacity coming out of the new will, and so the Lord again. People who have been reborn are entirely new people, formed by the Lord, so they are said to be created anew. The meaning of I will not strike every living thing again as I have done, as the fact that people could no longer destroy themselves in this way now stand out clearly. This is a situation where we're held back from the evil and falsity that are in us. Under those circumstances, we are conscious only doing and thinking what is good and true on our own. But this is an appearance, an illusion. It is the result. of being held back from evil and falsity, and held back with great force. What is more, since we are withheld from evil and falsity, we cannot destroy ourselves if we were given leeway or left on our own. To even a slight extent, we would plunge into all possible evil and falsity. So this is
Thank you, thank you very much. It's the next verse. Yeah, it's the next verse. I will read tomorrow from
okay.
this because this reading is over today because my brain is tired and I have to go. And yeah, you know your reading is very well. Yeah, your pronunciation is very well. You read like a native speaker. Is English your first language?
No, it's my second language.
But your pronunciation is very good. It's like a native. It's like it looks like you lived in England maybe anytime. Yeah.
Thank you. Спасибо.
And maybe any comments about this verse? Maybe you read. Was it understandable to read it? Maybe any comments? Okay. Yeah. This reading is over. Goodbye. See you.